In this tutorial, I want to help you understand what happens when you start to draw in perspective. To get there, we should first go over some vocabulary. The viewer. In the previous video, we talked a bit about what happens when a photographer takes a picture. The picture a photographer gets has to do with where he or she was standing as it relates to what they're taking a picture of. When we look at a photograph, we get to stand in the photographer's shoes and see what they saw when they took the picture. When we draw, we're doing the same thing, showing our audience what we want them to see from a very specific place. To do this, we imagine a viewer looking at a scene, our scene, the imagery that makes up our drawing. Our viewer helps us set up the three things we talked about in the previous tutorial: height, viewing angle, and distance. The ground plane. Think of the ground plane as our starting point to measuring height. We measure up from the ground to our viewer's eyes. This usually has nothing to do with the actual physical height of our imaginary viewer. If we have him looking out of a third-story window, eye level will then be 3 stories high. If instead our viewer is laying on the floor, eye level will be inches off of the ground plane. The picture plane. Think of the picture plane as an imaginary piece of glass. The viewer always looks through the picture plane at a 90-degree angle. If the viewer is looking straight ahead, the picture plane will always be 90 degrees to the ground plane. The most important thing about the picture plane is that it's where we collect the information that becomes our drawing. In other words, our drawing occurs on the picture plane. When you move the picture plane back or forward relative to our viewer, it changes what things look like in our drawing. The elements of seeing. Here we have 3 things that work together to define sight for the viewer. We have the station point, the viewer's eyes, the line of sight, which is the direction and angle the viewer is looking in, and the center of vision, the point where the line of sight crosses the picture plane. We put these 3 things together to measure distance to the picture plane. Horizon line. We all know the horizon line as the place where the Earth meets the sky, but in perspective, it represents our viewer's eye level. It doesn't look like it does, but it does. The horizon line is just what eye level looks like in the distance. Because it represents our viewer's eye level, we use it to describe height. So that's basically it. If you can remember these terms and what they stand for, you'll have a much easier time navigating through all that perspective has to offer. In the next tutorial, we'll transition these ideas into something we can use to start drawing in perspective.